Welcome to the DNA of Things, where we explore the cutting edge intersection of health technology and the human experience. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Koenig. On today's episode, we dive into the revolutionary work of Jasmine Smith, CEO and founder of Rejuve.ai. Jasmine is leading the charge in integrating AI with healthcare, crafting a future where your health data is not only empowering, but is also rewarding. In this episode, Jasmine shares her journey from health information management to the forefront of longevity movement. We discuss the unique ecosystem that Rejuve.ai is building in partnership with Singularity U, where your health data can earn you cryptocurrency that you can spend on wellness products and services. Jasmine also reveals how Rejuve.ai is creating a community of biohackers and health enthusiasts, all contributing to a groundbreaking database that could redefine how we think about aging and health span. If you're curious about how AI can help you live longer, how to turn your health data into tangible rewards, not just for your health, but in the material realm, or you just want to know what the future of personalized wellness looks like, this episode's for you. Tune in to discover how Jasmine and her team are working to make longevity accessible to everyone, one data point at a time. Jasmine Smith is the CEO of Rejuve.ai, a company at the forefront of integrating artificial intelligence with healthcare to revolutionize personal health and wellness. Rejuve leverages AI to analyze health data for personal health insights and recommendations, but more of that. There's actually, let's say, connection into the cryptocurrency world as well. So I'm sure we'll dive into, besides health and wellness, the whole notion of around decentralized currency and what that might mean for the future. But regardless, this is very much a future facing podcast, but the future is here and Jasmine's making it happen. So Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. Awesome to be here. And happy to be studying more about Rejuve and all the other topics that are intersecting too, as well as AI and blockchain, as you mentioned.
Super excited to dig in. I mean, you and I have been talking for a year or more. I know we've set up our partnership with sequencing.com on the whole genome side of things, as part of delivering the complete picture, at least in terms of a digital data signature to the individuals on your platform. And I want to dive into, the full capabilities of the application that you're building. Obviously, I want to touch on some of the science that, is unique to Rejuve.ai in terms of all the other longevity companies that are out there. Really interested in your engagement in your delivery system, the ecosystem that you're building. But let's get there organically. I'm also, of course, very interested in the human element. So, Jasmine, I'd love to share how did somebody get to the point where they're CEO of a, AI / cryptocurrency / big data precision health movement? Like, how does that happen? Like, walk me through, what's the journey? What's the educational process? What's the aha moment to becoming you?
Well, I mean, it's as these things go, a convergence of many things. My professional background was in health information management. So it's kind of a natural fit, this kind of maintaining data in this more, traditional setting, insurance and billing and blah, blah, blah. And now applying that to something much more exciting, this world of decentralization and Web3. On the longevity side, it's always been something I've been now personally passionate about. Like, even when I was pretty young, I was always just thinking, about these concepts of, living forever, living, long enough to feel like you got the most out of the human experience. I've always been interested in natural medicine and healing and supplements, which is also quite synergistic with the longevity space, especially now that we're able to do more research about these kind of ancient medicines and things and just everyday, wellness, nutrition, all that sort of thing. As for how I actually arrived at this position, through the Singularity Net ecosystem, that's like this other project and ecosystem around making sure that artificial intelligence and furthermore artificial general intelligence is actually beneficial to humanity, and not some of the more dystopian scenarios that were presented with in a lot of sci-fi movies and things of that nature. I got involved with them on a volunteer basis when they kind of were first emerging in 2018. So I was kind of just one of the people that was just answering questions in Telegram and promoting and explaining things, creating guides, all that kind of stuff. And I sort of stayed in touch for a few years until they reached out to me for an actual role in leading a health related project spinoff. So I started there as a product manager, and 4 months later, was made the CEO and just started executing the vision. It's a reality.
You must have been one heck of a product manager.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just started organizing the people and the elements to actually bring it from ideation phase into something that people can actually interact with in the in the real world.
Well, yeah, that's something that maybe folks who don't work in startups don't realize how much of the depth and breadth both needed in the product role, right? So, you think back to like the Steve Jobs days of user experience and prioritizing the customer, and so it's not just, oh wow, this shiny thing and it's cool and I want to build, but it's also, how are people going to interact with this? How is it going to make their life better? And then how do you organize teams around it? And then, how do you integrate the diversity of all these like interdisciplinary perspectives into this individual cohesive product? And to go from, as Peter Thiel would say, 0 to 1. So no product to something amazing. And then, what's particularly striking as well is the health informatics background. So health insurance, probably reinsurance, like payer, probably more payer focus as so far as I understand, the current electronic health records. One of the major opportunities, let's say, is to reframe it and have it to be more patient centered or even customer centered. If we start to think about, our health as a product, which may or may not be the right way of thinking about it. But tell me, like, how does your background in, I think you said insurance and health informatics, what kind of a picture did that give you in terms of where healthcare was? And then now what kind of, vision do you have as to where it might go? And this comes into, like, I think what you alluded to, which is, much more passionate about these things. So let me ask this in a more cohesive way. In terms of mission and passion, what is driving your passion in the integration of AI and healthcare? And then how is that aligning with your personal values and the Rejuve mission?
That's a really good and deep question. So my background was actually more in the actual analyzing of the medical record and translating it in, this ICD-9, ICD-10 coding system, that determines kind of what the rank of certain illnesses and surgical procedures are worth monetarily.
Okay. Gotcha.
There's, a whole lot of rules about documentation and, whether or not they really did diagnose this or didn't or suggested that it might be, and all this kind of thing. So it's more on that side of actually reading the doctor's writing, so to speak, and, translating it. So then, what I did see, on that, more personal level, like the problem was that it was kind of like a factory. It wasn't really about actually improving people's health and wellness on a deeper level. It was more, okay, you've got a problem. We're going to run you through this, prescribe you with something, send you off to the next location and see you next time. There was no consideration about, looking at the nutrition profile or the, lifestyle factors. I mean, of course, there's this general suggestions that everybody knows, don't smoke, eat your veggies and all that kind of thing. But I just didn't see that as playing an integral role. And of course, there was no concept of natural medicine in these settings. It's all, Western medicine and all that kind of thing. So I just felt like that was not aligning with my values because I didn't feel as though this healthcare system was really making people that much healthier. It's, so I kind of just, went into other things and yet continued my, involvement in this Web3 world. And once I kind of got really deep into Juve, I realized that this can actually revolutionize, everything that we know about healthcare. It can accelerate the research aspect of it because a lot of the sort of arguments against natural medicine come to, there's not enough data or anything to prove it, right? That, you can cure a disease with a combination of any like herbs or natural things. So what if we actually can run the clinical trials and amass the data because we have the willing people around and we have the technology, especially with the AI, to be able to trawl through a lot more data than was ever possible, to be able to, match up more variables and make, more personalized recommendations than ever before. So being at the forefront of, actually designing this and enabling people to, obtain that data and, have safe sources for information and for, substances and care. That's where I see the revolutionary aspect really come in, as to where we're focusing on extending people's health span and not just addressing symptomology.
Yeah. It makes me think of a guests that I had on previously. So I had, these are great people for, I think, me to connect you with. So Dr. Nathan Price, who's the Chief Information Officer at Thorne Supplements, Thorne Nutraceuticals. And he's constructed this idea of the digital twin. And anyway, something that you said that makes me think of something that we discussed when I had him on the show was, well, just the efficacy of the clinical trials themselves, right? Insofar as, well, they might have made it through stage one, stage two, stage three, and are disseminated, but it really is, really only effective for a relatively small percentage of people, 50%, 30% sometimes. And then the question that we need to ask ourselves in parallel to that is, well, are the side effects worth it? Right? Like, what is it now? The weight loss one, Ozempic. I mean, that efficacy seems to be pretty good, but I'm really interested to see what the side effects are for something like that. And I'm sure we're going to find out in the coming, months. But it is what you're saying in terms of housing the big data and in terms of collecting diverse data sets, and with AI and a global ecosystem, you can actually start to organize data sets in a way that would have been impossible to do previously in, say, like these academic lab institutions. Because one of the things that we have to think about is the exclusion criteria. So okay, we're going to select people who are historically all Northern European by descent, mostly men, and age demographic, let's say 40 to 60, and that's your kind of snapshot of what we're using as a petri dish to get some preliminary data, let's say. And it's not to say that that's useless. I think it's taught us a lot, and one of the things that it's taught us, I think, is the shortcoming of said studies. And so, okay, you've got this global ecosystem now. No small deal. No small deal. That's for sure. I'm trying to think about, how does one get to the point of that first clinical trial? And I think about the challenges where, like, you're not just building an application. You're not just building, into the cryptocurrency space in terms of launching a token. You're not just building an ecosystem. You're not just building a community. What's the biggest challenge that you faced, and how are you systematically approaching that?
Yeah, that's definitely true, that there are, a lot of components that go into it. The actual people, the ecosystem, the connections, the network aspect is a big one, but then the technological infrastructure is another one. And so I think that, building that architecture, with a remote team that's spread all over the world, because we do inject that ethos into our overall mission to making longevity accessible and affordable to all. We kind of mirror that in the way that we're set up, and that we're a remote international team. So being able to, coordinate all of those moving parts into a holistic application that has all the features that we want it to have, working at the level that we want it to work at, and then knowing that there's a massive roadmap behind it to make it better and better. I think that's
Mhm.
probably the biggest challenge. We don't want to just
Yeah.
put any old thing out there. We want to put the actual, the vision as we're imagining. So I don't know if we want to get into like the actual, the feature set, or,
I do. I do. A couple of things. So, like, I mean, I was a beta user on the initial product, and I'm interested to know what's coming down the pipe, and how's that ecosystem growing? Because I'm assuming you're really into like the early adopters, right? So how big is to the extent that you can share, how big is your ecosystem? What are people getting, right? Like, in terms of, oh, I don't know how do we best quantify this? Is it access to better care, in terms of better solutions for longevity? Maybe we can get to a point where it's like, hey, you've got an extra 10 years of health span added to your life, right? So So I guess there's three things I'd like to know is like who is the current community, what benefits are they getting, and then like what's the moonshot? Like what do you want to be able to point to in terms of success, like what you've delivered your customers?
Uh, yeah, so as far as the user base now, we have over 2,000 beta testers. They are mostly
Wow.
people who are in the kind of the Rejuve token community, I guess the crypto side of things, but there are a lot even within that that are actual health professionals as well that can offer more insights. I mean, there's UX and UI people, there's AI. So it's a broad range of people that are, already sort of interested in what we're building and waiting for that final product release. Yeah, and as you mentioned, you beta tested the early version. And so, after we sort of got to a certain point and, did a major event in Dublin around longevity, we realized that there was a need to sort of redesign the app. So we've done that as well within the past 6 months to a year. So, it looks totally different than the original one that you remember. We've kind of improved the UX and UI to be more easily understandable. So we've got a lot of reformatting there. And then, of course, the tweaking of the actual algorithms that are driving it to be able to generate, the approximate biological age calculation that's in there, and then the insights which are based on statistical Bayesian inference and things of that nature.
Okay.
And then, as
Hmm.
far as on the other side of it, we do have the Rejuve token already live. We're already starting to onboard our partners to accepting RJV as a payment method, as an alternative to normal currencies. So that way we're really creating that pipeline of, once people are able to claim tokens in the app, they can use them in the real world, and they can even use them now before the app is live if they already have tokens from elsewhere they obtain. So that's really, what we're really trying to build. So I guess, the moonshot is that we're actually able to create a system where not only are we rewarding people for their data, but we're giving them the opportunity to access products that maybe their normal, everyday kind of income and budget doesn't necessarily allow for. But if they're able to earn tokens, for their data contributions and for other types of contribution as well, whether it be AI models or participating as an ambassador, and, just any kind of ways like that where people can earn this currency in our ecosystem, they're able to turn that back around into products and services, to extend their health span.
Is your token so besides the products that you can buy in your health ecosystem, is that convertible to cash?
Well, technically, I guess all tokens are in
Hmm.
the long range, but we, kind of promote it being used, within the
Got
app
it.
and within the partner network. Like we're building pretty much that's why we call it, the other name for Rejuve.ai is Rejuve Network. So we're creating a network of clinicians, laboratories, product vendors, and users to be able to all like kind of be directed to where they need to go and connect in the wall.
Hmm. Got it. Insofar as the biological age, see, like that's interesting. Like I think about that as a user, and like that's a real tangible return, right? Like assuming the algorithms are informative, and then maybe we can talk a little bit how we know they are, because I know it's based on a lot of research that you guys have done previously, and that kind of you know let's say informs the models. But I know there are also user specific data, like, well, I think there's, you guys do, I think, DNA methylation. Do you do that? The epigenetic analysis as part of it. Is it exercise? Is it like what are the variables that go in that are within my control to reduce my biological age? That's I think one of the interesting things that folks would like to know.
So as far as the epigenetics and even the genomic data, the
Mhm.
first edition of the app can't really accept them, but we are putting the platforms out there for people to be able to attain those tests now. I mean, because it does usually take a while to turn around the data anyway when you submit your sample and all this kind of thing. So while we're kind of building up that infrastructure to add to the app, people can already start to get their test results. We are already working on some algorithms to deal with that data, but we're not at the stage yet of connecting that to the current
Mhm.
application.
Mhm.
So in the first edition of the app, it has all your lifestyle survey things, like kind of like a general medical history. You can add blood test data if you have it.
Okay.
You can connect wearable devices to be able to
Right.
track all of those type of metrics, and you can also track your daily nutrition.
Got it. So you're able to look at things like your socioeconomic status, your, quantifiable digital self as it relates to, say, Fitbit or Apple Watch, your bloods, soon to be your DNA, soon to be your epigenetics for this
All of the above.
360.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and so now you're like, okay, you get this like little dashboard of actionable insights where it's like, okay, for, you know, the unforeseeable future, my top priority is going to be, I don't know, to decrease my LDL cholesterol or to decrease my resting heart rate. And then do you connect people to plans to do that, to products to do that? How does it go from data to insight to action?
Yeah, we provide, kind of more general insights that are medically, scientifically supported. But then, yeah, we also
Mhm.
want to enhance that to deeper things like, yeah, being able to create personalized plans that are adjusted to people's, unique schedules and lifestyles and things of that nature. Maybe you have certain dietary preferences or allergies, to account for. Maybe you have a super busy schedule, kids, all this kind of stuff. So we want to be able to incorporate that to give people a realistic plan versus just stopping at the more general things that we already know. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely something that we want to be able to do, and also offer deeper exploration into your data as well, like being able to talk to it, things of that nature.
Tell me about that. What does that mean? Like talking to your data? I like that, this conversational aspect that I suppose like, the AI language models are helping us with. So is this kind of like everybody gets their own Jarvis, like from Iron Man, and I can actually query my historical data and maybe even extrapolate to a future? Like what is it? What does a conversation with my data look like?
Yeah, so on the early stage end is indeed, yeah, asking different questions or even maybe some hypothetical scenarios. What if I change this, and that? What would happen? And that's kind of the ultimate goal of the platform is as we kind of layer on more advanced AI techniques, that those kind of projections and eventual simulations become so accurate as to where it's pretty much within a certain high percentage range that it's true. Okay, yeah, I can say if I increase my exercise level you know, to 15 minutes a day or by 15 minutes or 30 minutes, what would my kind of overall picture look like in 3 months or something? And once we're able to really cross validate that stuff and get
Hmm.
that accuracy level up, that's when things really get interesting and exciting.
Got it. One of the things that you mentioned also was pulling in, like, I think it's like traditional Eastern medicine and, well, I suppose more like herbal interventions in conjunction with Western medicine. How do you see that happening in insofar as, are you guys? I understand that you guys are an ecosystem for research, but do you foresee connecting suppliers, like the manufacturers of products and services, to the platform as well? I think yes, you indicated to that, and so the real question I think I'm driving at is how do you define and maintain the efficacy of standard care, especially when, well, I mean, we've got, I think, two new levels. Like obviously, like the efficacy of pharmaceuticals are obviously we think they're those are transparent. How do we get to the efficacy of active ingredients to these lesser known compounds, especially when there's like a synergistic mechanism at play here? How do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, so definitely is a few dimensions there because yeah, there are kind of both known and unknown, you know, drug supplement interactions that we do have to kind of uncover, and we have to do that in a safe manner. I mean, there's some databases available which we'll be integrating, but as far as that, we do need to fill in those research gaps. The thing is, we do have a lot of people out there who are already taking lots of things who are already, sort of
Mhm.
biohackers or even just
Yeah.
casual users. And we want to be able to quantify how that's actually affecting them in real time because, it's kind of like the observational study model, right? It's like you're
Yep.
already doing this and you have no idea. Like even myself, I'm one of these people, go to the supplement store, see all this stuff. Oh, I heard this is cool. I heard that's cool. I don't have any schedule when I'm taking this stuff or, the combination or anything. I'm just kind of taking stuff that I think and believe is healthy that I've read about. So I would really be interested to know how it's actually affecting my biomarkers and how I can optimize my protocol to be able to get the most out of it instead of it being so random. So I think that if we
Mhm.
can, kind of dig into that aspect, we'll be able to get clearer data and be able to have, repeatable studies that we can, publish and kind of see the space with this sort of thing.
Yeah. What's your position on microbiome? Are you guys including any of that into your analysis? Is that on the roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeking partners in that space. It's definitely something that's very fascinating. I think it's very important. The gut brain connection. There's more and more coming out about it every day,
Yeah.
and I think it affects probably our health more than we really know and understand at this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you described on the nutrition and metabolism, the supplement space, like you said, it's multi-dimensional. And one of the things I was just absolutely fascinated by, this was going back to my days as an academic when I did my postdoc at Cornell. What I looked at was how the infant gut microbiome was colonized over time. And so looking basically at the representation of, call them, different bacterial species at birth, like, so this is examining the infant's fecal matter, baby poop, essentially. It was a 2.5 year assessment of baby poop. I call it a shitty project off record. But it was, there were some revelations there because the nature of the project, I think, is what you just described, which is observational. So we didn't go in and experiment on babies. No, we just collected their samples daily in combination with a journal that the mother kept. And so we started to see really interesting things, like at the point of switching from breast milk to formula, right? And then the introduction of solid foods, the introduction of antibiotics as a result of ear infection, the results of introduction of vaccination in line with the US schedule. So it was really interesting to what we would see, obviously, time and time again, is the perturbation of microbiome. And then when you have, more cells in and on the human body than you actually have human cells, and there's this crosstalk of the molecules that they make turning on and off the genes in our body. It's really just quite fascinating to see, the complexity of all these things at work. But the interesting thing was, there were instances of, community crashing, let's say, where the healthy gut microbiome was characterized by basically a certain level of diversity of microbes, and it seemed to kind of plateau at a certain point. But one of the babies, for example, got food poisoning. Well, there's an osmotic gradient shift, and you're purging out the entire system, and diversity is decreased because it's mostly a pathogenic community of microbes. And then you've got issues like chronic reduction in diversity, as evidenced by people who experience C. diff, Clostridium difficile infections. Oftentimes they get this at the hospital, and it's really hard to get back from that. The interesting thing is, like, our appendix has this, like, reserve of good bacteria and can actually seed out the system once it recovers. So anyway, I say all of that because as complex as systems are, there's a certain point, I think, where we can start to identify the levers, right? And I think that's where you're going. So it's an interesting choice of people that you're bringing to the table. So when I think about your 2000 early adopters, I mean, it almost sounds to me, it's like, how do we get like 10,000, 100,000 early adopters who are, it sounds to me like the people that you really want to work with at this juncture are those passionate about the quantified self movement that we're on. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, pretty much those that are already sort of involved in this space and interested, and that will be, power users of the app. And of course, I mean, that number, that's, the early interest. But once we do go live with a bunch of promotions and all, I'm sure that number, will be much higher. I mean, there's lots of people who, they just want to see the finished thing and not so interested in beta testing. So there's always that aspect as well. And I mean, there's
Yeah.
definitely this vibrant, like, I guess they call it the biohacker community, that's already like paying attention to these latest. And I mean, even in just the longevity space as well, there's
Yeah.
definitely a movement there. And
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Sorry,
you
go
were
ahead.
mentioning about, I think that study you mentioned is quite fascinating. And it also kind of touches on another point that our co-founder, Dr. Ben Gertzel, is pretty passionate about, and that's data set aggregation and the fact that,
Right.
data sets are often really siloed, but there's a lot of interesting stuff already being connected. And that if we can connect all of those together in a way that still, protects individual companies, IP and whatnot, but still able to gain the insights from that data, into AI platforms, and we'll be able to help more people than simply, having it all separated.
Yeah, I mean, I think about special data sets, like really interesting data sets for you guys, like astronauts, for example. How do you ensure optimal health before mission, and how do you ensure uh well reintegration, like optimal reintegration based on the individual's biologies and all those changes. Now, of course, that's going to be a very small data set, but maybe the next level down on the extreme list, but exponentially more people might be like extreme athletes. Have you had any athletes like interested in your service so far?
I mean, there's definitely individuals who, do work out a lot, but yeah, we haven't quite expanded into but it's been brought up a few times about, looking into athletes and all that sort of thing. Cause yeah, they would have probably a different set of, biomarkers and norms, than the average population. And I think, yeah, it is important to get all of those and be able to normalize the data on the back end somehow to be able to, paint a more, holistic picture and even create, these different, general profiles to start with.
Hmm. Right on. So you as a founder CEO, I mean, like I said, we've been chatting for over a year, and you have quite the interesting globe-trotting lifestyle. I mean, I think every time I speak to you, you're somewhere different. Today you're in Hawaii, you moved back to Australia. I think, were you in Switzerland or Sweden for a while? Walk me through the lifestyle of the founder of Rejuve, and then how are you using the product to stay young despite such a demanding set of endeavors before you?
Yeah, so my this traveling lifestyle does go back even a bit further than the CEO life. I was just kind of doing it because it was
Mhm,
just something I was always interested in.
mhm,
Of
mhm,
course, now I can do it in even better ways and things of that nature. But I mean, I don't really like to call it a job, but that itself demands a lot of travel because there's events and like, meeting, face to face meetings just accomplish a lot more sometimes than the Zoom calls. So, we do sometimes have to meet up. So I am
right.
sort of around the world, for various different reasons, sometimes for business, sometimes for pleasure. Like Australia, I just really like it there. So I am really trying to establish myself more there. But yeah, that is definitely a factor in consideration of people that are living this kind of lifestyle that does seem sort of glamorous, but then it also can come with some health implications like disrupting circadian rhythm. For example, like the well-known kind of longevity biohacker Brian Johnson actually mentioned in one of his talks that he doesn't really travel too far outside of his time zone region because of that reason, because
Mhm,
it throws off the sleeping schedules and whatnot. Being able to have time to actually cook healthy meals and I mean, like do all these things, and it actually requires have time to go to the gym and have time
mhm.
to do like more mindfulness, mental wellness type of things. Have a social life. It's definitely a lot to juggle, and it's something that goes into the consideration of how we can enhance these insights and recommendations that we're providing to adjust to people's lifestyles. Because then I think about people that are busy, in a more traditional setting, with running a family and kids and all these
Yeah.
sort of things, driving them, to school and events, how does that person structure their optimal wellness? How does someone who's traveling a lot do it? How does someone, is working from home and sitting a lot? When is the best time for them to exercise? Or somebody that does have, more traditional 9 to 5 or, six, 10 and 12 hour shifts where there's not a lot of free time. So yeah, there's a lot of considerations of how we can optimize that and make sure that every person has a good chance of being able to extend their lifespan and health span.
Yeah. You mentioned families. Do you see the future where parents will take a more data driven approach to the health of their children? Yeah. Do you imagine like maybe the Rejuve app is like a co-pilot, at the child's yearly checkup with the GP or the pediatrician? Like, do you see a future, 5, 10 years out where parents are actually parenting with, if not Rejuve, but just something, like Rejuve?
Yeah, I mean, for sure with the app, yeah, kind of one of the more near term parts of that is like people being able to present all of this stuff to their healthcare providers and raise the awareness overall in the medical community about this thing, longevity. I mean, yeah, nobody wants to be sick and get old and all this kind of thing, but it's not something that's currently a part of the pillar of the normal healthcare society of like, let's actually optimize for a long, healthy life. So, as that awareness kind of grows, then yeah, that should go into, the youth and parenting aspect of it as well. It's like from the time a child is born, being able to, yeah, assess what sort of things they might be at risk for, what sorts of things are they might ordinarily face just from the normal course of growing up, and also maybe some additional things that could occur based on their own biome and profile, and being able to kind of steer them in the right direction, both physiologically and also educationally, so that they themselves are more aware, like so that, the education expands from just, apples are good to, being able to have a concept of longevity, even at that early age, in a way that is understandable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you that some of the work that I've been doing with sequencing.com has been focused on the family. And, as you know, I've been working in the DNA industry for 25 years. 15 of that was in academia, 10 years of that more in industry. And it's really interesting to see the DNA industry evolve in the way that it has. And, the likes of, say, the Ancestry DNAs and 23andMe's kind of getting phased out, or at least being recognized for what they are, which is enriching my ancestry conversation and maybe connecting me to family phylogenetically. But now moving away from the 0.1% of your genome, just microarray sequencing, to whole genome sequencing. One of the things that I now see and have the benefit of with data from organizations like sequencing.com. Well, I know right off the bat that, like, I'm looking at all the 3 million variable sites in the genome of my daughter, and these are the 17,000 pathogenic markers. And these are the 3 or 4 that I'm interested in. And those have already changed the conversation, that I might not have had otherwise. So say, for example, like, I'm a carrier for very like congenital hearing, adverse development of hearing, essentially. And so one of the first things I ordered was a hearing test, because, well, if we have to look at, getting hearing aids, hearing device, so that our daughter develops socially, then you want to know that sooner. But now starting to, and so that was, thankfully fine. But then moving forward, it's like, okay, well, now there are drug allergies that I'm aware of, and there are food intolerances that I know. Now, of course, like, your DNA is not everything. You have to consider where you place your DNA, so what environment, because that's going to activate it epigenetically, and behaviorally, that's going to further enhance that expression. But that's where I think, like, what you're doing seems to me at the intersection of all of those things. So your nature, your DNA, plus wherever you are, and then behaviorally what you're doing. So if you could start to integrate that longitudinal analysis, right, and then start to empower people to see themselves as, well, a community of selves. So, the best thing for me, Jeremy, today at 40 is not the same thing that I might have wanted at 30, and is definitely not the same thing my daughter wants at 6 months. And, certainly there are some things that are going to be universal and consistent as part of healthy living. But one of the things that I saw, like, again, on a previous venture that I worked on with athletes, is even just speaking to an athlete as an individual makes them more, I don't know if you'd say compliant, or more open to doing a lot of the basics, because they want to get to that point of, like, sharpening the tip of the spear. And so maybe that's an interesting segue into the tip of the spear, which I think, you're working to make a reality, accessible to all. You mentioned at the top of the call, like, how do we live forever? So what, like, fast forward me to the future, like 10, 20, 30 years, we've got AI, we've got all this data. What is human lifespan? Like, you go to a lot of these longevity conferences. I mean, what's exciting? What's happening? What's exciting? What are the trends that we can expect, in the next 10 years? And then what should we be doing to, like, educate ourselves to get on that wave to enhanced health span?
Yeah, that kind of goes directly into this concept of longevity escape velocity, which I think it
Mm,
was Abu Dhabi and a few others that kind of originally reported this, where, if you can live long enough, to actually be alive in the era of this advanced technology, then you can benefit from it. So, we have this first step of, making ourselves healthier and living longer today, so that we can, still be around, for the more advanced technologies that can extend the human lifespan beyond the known limits. I mean, what's interesting is that the maximum human lifespan, from all we can see in, history and archaeology and everything seems to have like never changed. So, extending it would be a massive deal on a, you
mm,
know, epic proportions. There is a lot of viewpoints actually, especially in like transhumanism community, that we will actually be able to reverse aging and kind of become biologically immortal. At least kind of, I guess what the most interesting things I've seen in that direction is probably the epigenetic reprogramming stuff
yeah,
they're doing, starting in
yeah.
mice, being able to, like sort of actually make them kind of present biologically younger than their actual age. So I think that's interesting research, but of course it comes with, how does that delivery system actually works? Is it, is it injection? Is it pills? Is it a combination of all?
Yeah.
So I think that those safety measures will have to be installed when we think about editing our actual genome and all that kind of thing in ways beyond just, behaviorally and, substances that are in here.
Mm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot ahead of us, especially when it just comes to being able to analyze what's actually happening and having a more holistic understanding of biology.
Yeah. Well, I think of it in light of things like, genetics, and okay, just foreshadowing, or for the sake of the listeners, where I think we're about to get like real scientific or real sci-fi here. Like, we're not saying the Rejuve app does this, but we're talking about, I think, the things that people are talking about in terms of, like, the I don't know, the original gangster futurists like Kevin Kelly might say, and then whoever, Kevin Kelly's founder of Wired magazine. And I remember one of the things that, he said about AI, this was 10, 15 years ago, is, well, first of all, it's not really intelligent, it's smartness. It should be called like artificial smartness. Like, although, like, there are obviously generative aspects from it. It's, your calculator's smart. And so that, so far as it can, get to the derivative or do the long division, but, AI seems to me, slightly better than, uh, more creative than a calculator, but still, I think there's a fair amount of human direction required to guide and shape where AI can go. But certainly, like, I can't remember, I misquote if I try to get to the specifics, but I can say generally that biologists are benefiting from AI in, to the extent that they've identified a new cell type in humans that they didn't know of previously, that had to do with some receptor. So it comes back to, like, what you're saying, is being able to handle much larger sets of data in a much more revelatory type of way. So when I start to think of, like, discoveries like that, I start to think about, even, cross species. Like I said, like I mentioned, we're gonna get futuristic here, but I don't quite know exactly how, that might work. But you could imagine some kind of, like, even biologic suit that you wear as an exterior that you kind of, plug yourself into. Like, I think about athletes wearing these more intelligent suits, but it brings together biological programming and extensions to ourselves. And so I think there's just multiple ways to look at, okay, well, are we going to reverse aging, or are we going to, augment, our natural biology? I mean, not to seem like you're wearing glasses. I mean, that's technically an augmentation, right? So I think about, yeah, like those kind of external exoskeleton, whether it be biological or robotics, and like, are those kinds of things coming up at the conferences that you're attending?
Yeah, there's yeah, as far as like the cybernetic aspect of it, yeah, there's definitely
Hmm.
people that are interested in, the enhancements like that, whether invasive or non-invasive. I tend to be more on the non-invasive side just personally, but I know like, there's others that,
Hmm.
they don't mind kind of thing. So yeah, that is definitely an aspect of, the augmentation of who
Yeah.
we are and, an extension of that versus actually, altering like the genetics and all that kind of thing. Oh yeah, and you mentioned about the abbreviation of like for AI, and I think of it as automated intelligence at this point in time because
Ah,
I don't see
okay.
that intelligence
Mhm.
can really be artificial. It's just something that just is, and we're
Ah,
wanting to make it kind of operate spontaneously without these hiccups of that we have in our brain and these like limitations of data processing and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, and then the cross species thing. That is kind of like one of I don't want to call it like a fear, but I do wonder about it sometimes. They like back and forth
yes.
sci-fi direction of like, what if the only way to do that is to actually put some crocodilian DNA or some
Yeah.
jellyfish thing or something like that, and then
Yeah.
you become
Yeah.
one of these like hybrid beings that we saw painted on the walls of ancient Egypt or something, and that's how you look like.
Right.
I don't know, like or that's one
Right.
way, but
Right. Right. Well, okay. So that's, yeah. And you actually just kind of hit on something. And I did warn listeners we were about to get super sci-fi, but we'll come back on like what's actionable today. But the notion that, say that that type of thing is possible, because we've seen that in genetically modified agriculture, let's say, taking the antifreeze genes of fish that live at cold temperatures and putting them into strawberries. The strawberries don't crystallize, they survive the frost. Just an example. Might there be, some longevity gene from sea turtles, that help us live to be, 200, and hopefully this doesn't come like a Spider-Man type of episode. And I think thankfully it won't. I don't, that's not
right.
how genetics
Those,
doesn't
those
work.
those are superpowers involved, right?
Right. Well, that would be cool, but what is it? Great power comes great responsibility. But I think one of the things that I was thinking about, which is where is leading to like the biologics suit as an example. And I think about this as like, hey, Elon Musk, if you're interesting, this might be an area to consider. Probably is already, since he seems to be into everything in terms of information and communication, free speech, and implants, and uh, electronic vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. I'd be surprised if there wasn't, some kind of research efforts into this. But so I'm thinking about the external suits in terms of, space travel, interstellar travel. You're going to want something that's photosynthetic, right? Assuming that you're going to get in contact with some kind of light, whether it's lights in this solar system or the next one we jump to. But there's a sea slug currently that exists, that it will actually harvest algae. It'll harvest the chloroplast from algae. It'll actually grow these appendages. Again, it's a slug, but it grows this appendage, so it actually looks like a leaf. And these things will live in aquariums for years just by harvesting the sugar that the cyanobacteria that they harvest out of the algae create through sunlight. So, and I mean, hey, by the way, if you want to reduce CO2, uh, to get everybody wearing suits that fixed carbon as their energy source is like, yeah, that could be effective. So, okay. Anyway, we've gotten way off topic, but I think like how we got there was really, okay. Hey, there could be all these really interesting technologies in the future to, so I kind of look at it like longevity, like really with health span, right? Because you want healthful years to live long. And I think about like, if we are so lucky, if we are so privileged to get to that point, it's kind of like this amusement park, right? Where it's like, how many times and how many different rides do you get to go on now? Because you have this health span. It's like, oh, hey, I like tried to be a professional athlete, when I was 20, and then I went to be a doctor, but then I did this like whole reverse aging thing. Now I'm going to go try to be a professional athlete again. And so I think it's really, from the individual's point of view, very interesting insofar as experientially, what kind of experiences I'll have in my life. But then in addition to that, there's the, what might I do for humanity? because the amount of information that you can now digest and leverage and build on for this generation and the next generation, I think becomes exponentially more. So I think there are all those really interesting benefits from this. So the question is, what do listeners have to do besides use the Rejuve app? And how long do they need to do it to get to that? What did you say it was? The longevity?
Longevity, escape velocity. Yeah.
The longevity. What is your estimate of that longevity escape velocity? Is it 20 years, 50 years? What do you think? And how old do I have to be?
Well, I think,
Biologically, how old do I have to be?
yeah, I mean, I think definitely because then, you can get into when is the technological singularity and all this kind of stuff. Some people say it's like right around the corner and things of that nature. But I think definitely within 50 years, we will see a kind of a turnover of what we know as our paradigm. And, that's just based on where we are, right now with science and technology and all the cutting edge stuff that's occurring. I think that the world will probably, just as, today's world looks unrecognizable to someone in the 1800s, I think probably due to that exponential development, the world in 50 years will look totally different from how it does now. So that will bring with it a lot of advancements that, maybe are hard to imagine at this point in time. So I would say that's probably a good goal to shoot for, to be around that much longer in a healthy state where you're able to kind of, move around and jump and run, do things. And then, you can even get into the aesthetics part of it too, because of course, no one wants to, look, undesirable either. You want to look, the way that you want and all that kind of thing. So there's several dimensions and technologies and products that are being developed and coming into play. And it all depends on how soon these things are safe for human trials and the results that are coming out of them.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing from you is I should probably focus on the next generation. That is, like, get my daughter ready. Because if I got to hang for 50 years, can I get my biological age to 30 by the time I'm 90? But I mean, maybe that's the focus, right? Is okay. Obviously, you're going to focus on the next generation anyway. But what can you do that's in your power to, by all accounts, let's say using the Rejuve app? Number one, measure your biological age today, and then develop a system to, proactively reverse it, which I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's probably mostly diet and exercise, maybe a precision supplement blend, maybe a more personalized exercise plan, probably like some dose of pharmaceuticals. But I guess that's the point, right? Is what is the right combination for me based on, say, the comorbidities that I'm presenting with today? Because I think I saw a stat that like 88% of people in the US have a comorbidity, right? So I think like the first step is the systematic removal, if possible. And then those other 12%, it's like, okay, sharpening the tip of the spear and becoming more optimal. Is that a fair summary?
I think it does come a lot to that monitoring and that early intervention kind of process. Like if you avoid these chronic disease patterns, then you make it into older age and be able to optimize. Because like right now, we don't know if any of these kind of emerging technologies are actually going to impact, as far as on the drug level. Because right now, all the people that have lived past 100, you go and interview them, and they do lots of kind of baseline studies, and they find that they haven't really done anything in particular. It was a combination of their genetics, plus their lifestyle, of having a good, social network, having purpose and meaning in life, and then eating, kind of a plant-based, lower calorie diet, staying mobile. These kind of simple things are usually what influence achieving centenarian level, rather than doing like a gene therapy or something like that. So it's the early, preventing the chronic diseases, I think is a big one. And monitoring your health to be able to see where your biological age actually is, so that it's something that you're consciously aware of and like actually working on and optimizing, instead of it just being an unknown.
So what's the next thing for you, Jasmine? What's got you most excited on the Rejuve roadmap?
We're definitely bringing the app life is the biggest goal for this year, and really
Hmm.
beginning that research platform of people being able to, earn rewards in exchange for their data, and building up our own live database with all of these various different types of data from, the lifestyle to genetics to epigenetics to glycans and even more. Want to get fMRI on there, EEG, all this sort of stuff,
Hmm.
to be able
Hmm.
to really start to work meaningfully with that data and create these personalized plans and have,
Hmm.
people really interacting and starting the ecosystem. So I think just the actual beginning of this thing coming out of just a cool idea to actually happening in real life is what I'm most excited about right now.
And is there a limit to how many people can download and use the app?
No, I mean, there's a few, I guess, no legal restrictions, I guess, like, China, for example, they have, really strict on how, you can push the app, and app stores have their regulations. And
Hmm.
there's a few
Hmm.
countries also where cryptocurrency is totally illegal. It's pretty sure it was though.
Hmm.
Aside from those obstacles, no, there's no limit. And yeah, we want to really have a massive database that even other research entities can draw upon uh, as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So if people wanted to follow you more closely and, join you potentially in knowing their biology more over the next 50, 50 years to get that, longevity. What was again longevity velocity?
Longevity escape velocity. Yeah.
The longevity escape velocity. I love that term. So the longevity escape velocity. Where can they find you, and how do they become and how do they join your community of early adopters?
Yeah, so we are on all the major social platforms. Probably our Twitter and Telegram pages are the most active right now.
Okay.
We also
Okay.
have blog on our website that we publish a lot of longevity related content, informational things, and we also will soon be launching an ambassador program to be
Oh,
able to
cool.
network the community even more.
Okay. So that's ambassadors, like content creators, affiliates. Do they have to be health experts, or can they just be early adopters and influencers? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's why we'll have multiple prongs. So we want to actually have a physicians and clinicians kind of group as well
Gotcha.
that we developed. We'll have, the influencers and things of that nature, and then also community moderators working more day to day, answering questions and
Hmm.
directing people to the right aspects. And yeah, we have a few other things. And actually, we'll have that kind of initial town hall or outreach coming up in early April.
Cool. So it's rejuve.ai is the website slash
Yep.
handle on Twitter, X, Telegram, etc. Is that true?
Yeah, Rejuve.ai is
Okay.
a site, and then you can find all of our official links there as well. Because there is a lot of when you get into the crypto world, a lot of scams and fake pages and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to just click
Awesome.
directly from our sites.
Awesome. Well, Jasmine Smith, CEO of Rejuve.ai, company on the forefront of integrating artificial intelligence, healthcare, cryptocurrency, helping you live to 200, maybe 300, helping you get to that longevity escape velocity. Jasmine, thanks so much for joining us here today. I'm really excited to pass your message on to our listeners. So thank you for joining me. All right. What a enlightening conversation with Jasmine Smith, CEO of Rejuve.ai. We explored how AI and blockchain are paving the way for a future where personalized health insights could help us live longer, healthier lives. From understanding your biological age to creating a data-driven roadmap for optimal health, Jasmine's vision is not just futuristic, it's actionable today. If this episode has sparked your curiosity or made you rethink your approach to health and longevity, don't keep it to yourself. Share the love by spreading the word about the DNA of things. Your friends, your family, and followers could be just one podcast away from a life changing insight. And remember, every step you take towards understanding your genetic makeup, your DNA, your health data brings you closer to a longer, more vibrant life. That is DNA in context. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep exploring the DNA of things that make life extraordinary.